back. So whenever you make a new application, I don't care if it's a web application, a phone application, you have to figure out the domain you're working in. So you have to figure out, how do we make a joke application? What kind of information do we need to make a joke, right? And to make a joke, at least as a minimum, we need a few properties. We need to know a unique ID in our case. We want to know the specific joke so that we can just say specifically, this is joke X, right? This is joke Y, this is joke Z. So we need a unique identifier for a joke. We need some kind of setup for the joke. That could be, for instance, a horse walks into a bar. That's the setup for a joke. And then we need a punchline. That could be, why the long face? The bartender says, why the long face, right? That's the punchline for that joke. So those three properties, I want to kind of map those inside my code, so I can kind of, that's the domain, that's the area I'm working in my joke application. And we can also later add another thing, that's the category. That's going to be its own class as well, that kind of maps that domain. Now, you have to know a bit about object-oriented programming to do this, but we want to kind of model our system. So what we need is kind of to have models, right? We need models that can explain, we have a joke, we have a category, we have users maybe later, we have whatever we need, right? So we're going to add a folder on the source right here, and we're going to call that the directory called models right here. So under that models directory, we're going to add our first model, the first object that can kind of explain the real world to the computer system. Now we're going to call that again the joke TS file right here. So now we've kind of created our first joke TS file, and we're just going to add that to Git right away. Now this is kind of the joke that's going to kind of explain how a real world joke should be mapped inside your computer system right here. So that's what this joke is going to represent. When we're working inside TypeScript, we need to do this by exporting a class called joke. So we're kind of just explaining to the system what we're going to need to create a joke right here. Now this is how we make that happen. So we explain that we have a joke now, and by adding these curly brackets, we're explaining this is the class, and in here we're going to define, in the curly brackets, we're going to define the properties that a joke needs. And I just said a joke needs a unique identifier. I'm just going to call that ID, and that's going to be a string in our case, a unique string of some kind. A string is just a text, right? We're going to also have the setup. That's also just going to be a string, and then we're going to have a punchline. And the punchline is just going to be a string as well. Now, I know that this is very simple since we're just working with strings, but I will extend this later to have numbers, Boolean values, other classes inside class and stuff like that. Just let's keep it simple for now. So now we've kind of explained to the system how a joke looks in the real world. We just explain it in code now. So in the next lesson, we're going to try and create such a joke. And I know this is recap again, but I just want to kind of get you guys going in the right setup right here. And just adding the models now, we didn't do that in the last lesson, so we kind of have an area to put all our different domain models inside that folder. So let's end it here. Now we have a joke class available to present a real joke in the real world. See you next time.